I have a friend um, who I used to go to church with about 20 years ago, who we're still connected on social media. And as you know, I left the Christian tradition. I don't think I've ever on TikTok or YouTube or any place like that. I don't think I've ever shared my story as to when I left the Christian tradition or why I left the Christian tradition. But I guess he was going through some of my TikTok videos and saw that I had taught a class back in 2022 um, with my friend Erica Johnson, also known as the Phantom Queen. We taught a class called the Dark Goddess series, where we taught three classes related to working with um, particular death goddesses. Um, it was the Morgan, who is an Irish or Celtic death goddess, Santa Morte, um, which even though she in Mexican culture, she's part of the Catholic tradition, but her history goes back to Aztec spirituality, where she was known as Mictacasihuatl, which is roughly translated Lady Death, and Hecate, which is an ancient Greek goddess of death, or the goddess of necromancy. Um, so he saw one of those promotional videos that I did, and I guess he was taken back, and so he left a comment like, what happened? He mentioned something about being brokenhearted, that I had left the Christian tradition, and that I was practicing, which he doesn't all the way know everything that I'm doing. Um, and in this video, I don't think I'm gonna go into it, but I will leave a link. Um, I'll either leave a link of those classes, or I'll leave a splash page where you can find a link to those classes if you're interested. If you're on a similar path that I am. But I told him, I replied to his comment, and I told him that I would do a video, kind of talking about how I transitioned from being on a Christian spiritual journey to a non-Abrahamic spiritual practice or spiritual tradition. So that's what I'm going to do in this video. The first thing I want to say is, because I'm not going to be polemic about people's spiritual practices. I practice what I practice, and I don't expect anybody to come. Even though some people who knew me as a Christian, usually older people, try to say something to me or try to straighten me out or whatever. But I'm not gonna. It's not beneficial for me to go into a polemic stance on why I left the Christian tradition. The truth of the matter is, I got a lot of friends, family, and relatives who are still part of the Christian tradition, and if it's working for them, it's working for them. If it works for you, you know, why mess with it? So this is not a video about trying to get people to leave Christianity. I was a Christian for the majority of my life. I think it was let me see, 2019. It was 2019 that I started practice, kind of starting to practice what I practice now. And I think it was in 2020 that I officially left the Christian tradition. So Christianity took me so far, and then whether you would agree with this or not, Spirit moved me to leave Christianity and to start practicing what I and a lot of people call spiritual freedom, or spiritual autonomy, or spiritual independence. So with that being said, I'm going to give you a little rough storyline of what happened, how I ended up leaving the Christian tradition. So I went to seminary in the fall of 2013, and I got my degree in a master's in divinity. And at the time, my goal was I was going to get my master's of divinity, and then after that I was going to get my PhD, probably in biblical studies, either Hebrew Bible or Christian scriptures. But when I was in seminary, this was around the time that you started to see a lot of violence toward young black men. And the seminary that I was part of, there was part of the classes, and just in general, there was a lot of encouragement of spiritual reflections. And because it was a predominantly white seminary, I don't think they thought about how a black student, a black seminarian, would be reflecting on the racial violence that was showing up not only in social media, but the way that white journalism was framing these stories, almost like, these young black men who died at the hands of other people or even the police, that they somehow deserved it. And then they may even try to say that that the police didn't deserve to be punished, or the person who might have killed a young black man didn't deserve it. So I had to reflect on these things, and I'm trying to wrap my hands around the pastoral aspect of how I would try to talk to people about that. And it was rough. It was like, it wasn't just education. We weren't just learning things. We weren't just learning skills or learning how to think critically and theologically. We were we had to digest a lot of different things. And so um, when you think about theology, there's the dialogue partner of traditional theology is philosophy. So, so if we were doing philosophy, with philosophy was our dialogue partner, we would use a lot of existential philosophy in dialogue. Um, if we were working with the liberation theology, the dialogue partner wouldn't be philosophy, but rather social analysis. And so these were the things that we were, quote unquote, wrestling with. And so me and other students of color, Black students, Latino students, Pacific Islander or Asian students, you could kind of see it it started to be taxing. But in the spring of 2016, I took a class, Hebrew Bible, and the last assignment that we had was an interpretation paper, an exegesis paper, which was an interpretation of a passage of scripture, and we had to use what we learned in class about how to translate Hebrew, and we had to put that in our paper. So I chose the passage Exodus 3, the first part of Exodus 3, where Moses encounters the burning bush. And when I was doing that, around that same time, one of our classmates passed away. One of our Black classmates passed away. And so I don't know. I'm saying that because, that may have been part of, the experience as well. But when I was doing the translation of that passage, for me, it looked like Moses didn't just encounter God in the burning bush. It seemed like he encountered his ancestors as well, which had made me start asking all these other questions. And then I guess the more important question was and I don't want to go too far into the academic jargon, but there was what I would call a hermeneutical question. Basically, am I really reading this in the text, or am I reading myself? And so that second part, am I reading myself, was asking, am I tapping into something that's always been there, but I never explored? So I tried to ask a few questions around campus. I tried to ask my professors, because the way I was looking at it wasn't just ancestral spirituality. It was, for me, it was African ancestral spirituality. No one in seminaries, no one at the school was familiar with ancestral spirituality, or at least they weren't going to talk about it, because they had like what I would call a theological commitment in their education, in the way they approach their curriculum. I tried to go to the history department. They weren't trying to talk to me about it either. Even, I found an African historian, and he wasn't trying to talk about it either. But that summer, I took a class with a visiting professor from Howard, and I had lunch with her, and I told her my experience as well. And she could tell that something was going on with me spiritually, like that I couldn't shake. And so she said, she gave me a book to check out. And the book was called Divining the Self. And it was written by one of her colleagues at Howard. And she was saying, the reason I'm giving you this book is, yeah, she said, it's a good book. She said, but I'm giving you this, I'm referring this book to you because of the bibliography. And so that kind of helped me start pursuing some of the questions that I was having. That exegesis paper that I wrote ended up becoming an academic sample for an application that I had submitted to Vanderbilt University, and I got into Vanderbilt. And so Vanderbilt has a really good research library. And so a lot of questions and a lot of things that I was looking into, I started to pursue there. And so the thesis that I started working on related to you know, my my accumulation of academic requirements was this idea of cultural memory and the Moses narrative, or cultural memory in the Bible, which also allowed me to take a class in the history department at Vanderbilt with a professor, Tiffany Patterson, and we did a direct study on African diasporic spiritual traditions. And it was like we were kind of exploring spirituality before and after emancipation of Black people. And this was not just being introduced to different spirituality, but being reintroduced because I didn't realize it, but there was some of this culture was part of me growing up in Memphis. And there were certain things I saw my grandmother do, certain things I heard my grandmother say, certain things I've heard my grandfather say. It was part of the culture. So that was kind of like I reconnected with those roots. But as I continued my studies with in Exodus 3, I realized that the ancient writers of those texts, in their own situation, in their own context, they were trying to preserve their cultural identity. And part of that cultural identity was their understanding of the divine. Because, they were in captivity, Babylonian captivity. They didn't want to get influenced by Babylonian spirituality. So they were trying to preserve who they were by the God that they served. So one of the things I took away from that was, well, if I was trying to preserve my own cultural identity, I would, and if, the majority of Black people who were kidnapped from Africa came from West Africa, then the gods of my ancestors would be the Orisha. I guess they would be the Orisha and the Loas, but definitely the Orisha. And so Um, I said, well, I will, you know, light a candle for some of the Orishas. And for some reason, Oshun um, seemed like, intuitively, Oshun seemed like an Orisha that I should light a candle for or give veneration for. And so that's what I did. I lit a candle for her. I drew some artwork for her. I did some research and, you know, found out there were certain offerings that she liked, like according to some of the people who practice, like Cuban Santeria or people in the Yoruba tradition, where I cut an orange in half and drizzled honey on it. So I had that on my the shelf of my window, along with the artwork that I did and a candle, and that was how I began to practice that spirituality. And it was, I felt like, I guess like after a week, I felt like I started to connect with Oshun. And then after that, I started connecting with other Orisha. Um, and then sometime after that, after I connected with Oya and Ogun and Shango and Ishu Alegba, one night um, I had like a dream about Ganesha, and I was like, Ganesha's not an Orisha. What's going on, you know? But I felt like Ganesha was reaching out to me, so you know, I lit a candle for Ganesha, and so it was just like I was just doing, you know, whatever, you know, I was just doing what my spirit was moving me to do, and it was around that time that um, I got introduced to different, well, one non Abrahamic mystic um, that that I got introduced to on YouTube, and I honestly feel like the universe connected me with her. And so I was fortunate enough to learn some things from the videos on YouTube about, you know, that she was sharing. And ultimately, I got a chance to be taught directly by her as well. Um, so so that's kind of how I did. Like it. So that was a spring of 19. I started. You know, I let that candle for Oshun, and then I started learning about some different things. And so, just intuitively, one of the first things I did was I started learning how to um, keep my energy balanced, keep my energy flowing the way it should be. And I think that was when, once I did that, once I started meditating and working on my my energy and making sure my energy was flowing properly, that was when all those orishas and different divine energies started showing up in my life. Um, um, I also had a spiritual life coach too, who I'm still connected with today, who is who helps me, you know, kind of helps me stay grounded, and you know, reminds me about keeping my mind more fortified and so on and so forth. Um, I think that's This video went pretty long. It's going on 25 minutes. Um, but that's my story in a nutshell. Like I said before, if you're a Christian and Christianity is working for you, I don't see why you would leave it. But if you're at a place where, if you feel like you're at a crossroads, um, and you feel like you're moving, you feel like your spirit is moving you into spiritual freedom or spiritual independence, um, you can reach out to me. Like I said, I'm gonna put a link in my bio, a splash page where you can go to that splash page, and not only can you look at those classes that I did with Erica Johnson, you can also see different other things that I'm offering as it relates to mentorship or spiritual life coaching, or even um, readings. So that's um, that's what I wanted to share, and I hope my friend had a chance to watch this and make it to the 27th minute of the video. Um, and if he or anybody else has any questions, feel free to leave comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace and blessings.